Generation Kill is a drama war-themed miniseries that aired on July 13th, 2008 on HBO. This was actually done by the same guy who created the TV series The Wire, and it stars Alexander Skarsgård. The story focuses on the first wave of soldiers who are fighting in the war in Iraq, and a Rolling Stone reporter has come along for the ride. It's mainly about what it's like to be in the army at that time. Now, full disclosure, the series takes a completely objective view of the war in Iraq. It is not for or against the war. It's just focused on giving a realistic depiction of it. If a TV series like Over There is liberal, then Generation Kill is about as independent as you can get. Now, as for my thoughts on the war, I believe we should have gone to war with Afghanistan, not Iraq. However, from what I've gathered from this series, the country of Iraq was actually wanting to be liberated from Saddam Hussein. So I can at least see where the other side is coming from. But I'm going to focus on talking about the series itself. If you think this series is going to have a bunch of soldiers who are completely reluctant to go to war and kill Iraqis, then that actually couldn't be further from the truth. The first part has them all aching for a chance to fucking do what Marines do and actually be fucking excited for it. Usually the frustrations come from not being able to do their jobs or getting confusing orders. That brings me to one of the things I like about this series. It doesn't really tell you whether being in the military is fun or not. It just kind of lets the audience decide whether or not it's appealing by showing both the good and bad aspects of it. This series really understood that you can make anything look like shit if you only focus on the negative aspects. The Marines are able to have their pleasures. At one point they get Pizza Hut, and they have their candies and even have some porn magazines. Also, when they get victory against the enemy, some of the Marines are legitimately enjoying themselves. Yes, it does showcase the boredom and the dickheads that any soldier will probably face, but I think you get what I'm saying. On that note, David Simon brings over the realism from The Wire into this miniseries, and it shows. This miniseries is so fucking realistic, it doesn't even have a musical score. Yeah, most of the series has no music, and the only song that is not sung by the Marines, they actually do sing songs, and even kind of change the lyrics to reflect what they're doing. Anyway, the only song that is actually digestive doesn't appear until the final part. More on that later. That's pretty impressive. It's very documentary-like in its approach. I like that aspect of it. But it does lead to some of the Marines just kind of speaking their minds on a variety of subject matter. While Josh Ray Person's response to a kid's letter is fucking priceless, and I am glad it exists, he does express some of his other opinions that made me go, what the fuck? Although, to be fair, one of the Marines asks if he's drunk. On top of that, he even says that people accused him of being drunk before. So I guess he has some self-awareness about it. Actually, a lot of the opinions translate to the other Marines. I don't always understand or agree with what they're saying, but these opinions somehow feel like opinions I can see people having. They feel real. That's not to say that I never agreed with them, but your mileage may vary. When they just express their viewpoints. Seeing how it puts an emphasis on realism it does get into the uncomfortable aspects of realism. Now, I've been a little bit harsh with realism lately, so I will say Generation Kill is not a series that has nothing but bad realism like Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. It does have some things in common, unfortunately, but not enough to make a fair comparison. In addition to the controversial opinions, it can also be really gross at times. And it's not just like every once in a while. It's pretty frequently. And it also has some disturbing images. Although, yeah, not as much as some other stuff I've seen. This is also not a politically correct series. It has extensive profanity, racial and homophobic slurs, male nudity, sexual references, including a joke about pedophilia, and even blasphemy. Now, I'm not offended by most of this shit, but if you are, you might want to stay away from this series. Now, if you want a series that's going to have a bunch of blood and guts, then you will be pretty goddamn disappointed. That's not to say there are no scenes of combat. There are actually a few scenes of combat. But most of the time you barely see the enemy, let alone blood from where they're shot. For what it's worth, I do enjoy these scenes, but they're not like super goddamn bloody. I think it goes to show that blood doesn't always make things more realistic. As a matter of fact, the only super gory moments don't happen until the final part, and the final part does not have one combat scene. On that note, the final part left a pretty sour taste in my mouth. You'll be surprised to know that the Iraqis were mostly happy with the US soldiers coming to help them stop Saddam. But once the US soldiers stop attacking the army, the Iraqis start to hate them. First Command told them not to attack, but once Command and orders them to attack, the person running the mission deliberately disobeyed the order to attack. I was frustrated when watching this, but I don't really know at who. Especially since both times it didn't really change the situation. I guess the best option both times would have been to attack. But I guess it's interesting to know that the series shows that it's not always easy to know what is the right option to take. But that's not the only reason, or even the main reason why it left me with a feeling empty. This is where the opinions start to get under my skin. And it's towards the end, so yeah, of that part. This is the last scene. The last scene in the series has the soldiers watching all the videos that were filmed during their time in the war. And it's set to The Man Comes Around by Johnny Cash. I am not sure what I'm supposed to be feeling, but what I do feel is mainly bitterness and confusion. Although the end credits monologue remedies this somewhat. Overall, I have mixed feelings on Generation Kill. While there are many aspects that I like, there are just as many aspects that I don't like. I guess that kind of comes with life in general. But in a way, war is a reflection of life itself. I will say it is much, much better than Over There. Over There is a melodramatic goddamn soap opera that will only appeal to the Libbies. Generation Kill is way more fucking fascinating than that show ever will be. However, it is not a series that I would recommend to most people. I think most people, of any age frankly, will feel uncomfortable watching it. But if you're interested at all in the war in Iraq, or just military life in general, or even just watching this series, I would say go ahead and watch it. You will definitely form your own opinion. I will say I'm glad I watched it, but I don't think I will watch it again. At least not in its entirety. If you like this video and you want to see more, be sure to subscribe to my channel. I'm Spike Robot saying, see you next time, and honor the freedom jingos.
Funk this party!